Okay, my name is Jeppe and I've been in the LARP scene for 22 years. I have experienced everything from fantasy LARPs to intense Nordic dramas, but I keep coming back to the fantasy battles, I gotta say. Now I am so fortunate that I get to work for Epic Armoury, where I'm a part of creating the products for LARPing and making sure that a lot of people get to experience this fantastic hobby that is LARPing. So firstly, we're gonna start at our classics and ready for battle very quickly. Back in the late 90s and the early zeros, one of the biggest problems with LARPing, riding the wave of big fantasy Hollywood movies, were the fact that you could not get a sword from a shop before it was sold out. There were no big manufacturers of LARP swords, and then came Epic Armoury, at least here in Europe. And with Epic Armoury, the first mass-produced swords started to happen. But of course, it was the first. Sometimes the tip would break, the latex would scale off. We grew, we got better. And we wanted to create a weapon that were more durable, more competitive, more balanced, just better. And from that, in 2016, came the Stronghold series. There's the Strongholds and the Stronghold Master Collection. And the Stronghold Master Collection is really where we've tried to take everything we know about sword design, about what our users have wanted and have told us about their experience with sword, and really try to just make a line and a collection that were made to keep the aesthetic flair of our classics, but have a competitive line that were made for intense combat, that had the durability to stay upwards for fighting 6 hours a day, still coming home beautiful. That was the Stronghold. It's made of EVA foam, creates a really soft foam and a light weight that gives good balance. And the Strongholds are what we call maintenance free. Maintenance is a big question for a lot of people. The less maintenance they need to do for their products, the better. We still advise people use the silicone gel because it will keep the finish and the details at higher glance for a longer time, but it's not necessary to keep the sword durable and workable and usable. About 9 years later from the original Strongholds coming out, we have made what we call the Generation 2. We have seen what's happening out in the LARP community. We've seen what's happening with LARP swords. We have experienced more balance, lighter weight, greater competitiveness, and we want to match it. So we have created 2 new swords inspired by medieval history. We're going back to the roots, but with increased balance and lighter weight. And I'm not kidding you. I've been going to Krigslive, a Danish war LARP, for 15 years, where all we do is imitate Warhammer figurines, battling it out. And I've never had a better sword. I've never been as deadly in the battlefield as I was wielding the Milanese, because it felt like an extension of yourself. It felt like it was made to fight with. It wasn't just a toy that were supposed to look like a sword. It was supposed to give you the feel of swinging a sword. And it did. Again, a bit lighter than steel, but I also like not getting hurt. So here it is, the Milanese. So this is the actual sword I brought to Krigslive and fought with. It is one of our samples. And some of you might say right now, well, Jeppe, isn't a bit of the coating on the sword smudged a bit? Yeah, a little bit, because I forgot to use the gel beforehand. And as I said, it's not going to break the sword at all, but a bit of the detailed finish might smear if you're not using the gel. We recommend doing that. But again, I use this sword against plate armor, against wooden shields, for 6 hours a day, 3 days in a row, and it's still whole. The swing of it is still great. I would go to a LARP with this if I could tomorrow and fight people, because that's what we do. And again, it is the only sword I've ever recommended to people as well, because I just feel that this is what we want. I mean, we're not trying to imitate real steel. Then we would join a reenactment crowd. We just want to have fun, we want action, and we want to feel like the hero. And having the right sword, like the Milanese, will make you feel like a hero. While we are trying to make all of our Stronghold Generation 2 with the same weight and balance principles, design will always be a thing as well. We know that LARPers, like you, are creative. You have desires like your own, and this Imperial, in my book, speaks more to those desiring a bit more detail. You know, you can be a cool knight, but you can also be the fancy noble lord, and this to me is very much the fancy noble lord. You have a few more details, a few more niceties. It is supposed to be the best sword you can get on the market. That's our goal here, but it's up to you to decide whether it is or not. And of course, I am incredibly biased sitting here talking about swords from Epic Armoury when I'm working at Epic Armoury, but it is my honest opinion that I have never had a more competitive and better sword experience than using the Milanese. And I am looking forward to saying the same things about the Imperial, but I haven't had a chance to wield it yet.